One big project is to try and extend human life basically indefinitely. The other big project is to find the source or the keys to human happiness and make people not just live longer but live happier lives. And the third and most important project is to really give humans divine abilities of creation. Just as in traditional mythologies, gods were thought to be able to create and engineer and produce life, like the God in the Bible that creates humans and animals and plants. So now we are trying to gain the technology to engineer and produce life ourselves. It's very likely that in the 21st century, the main product of the economy will indeed be bodies and brains and minds. We are learning how to engineer and manufacture them. No, science is going to transform religion. We will see either the transformation of old religions or the creation, the appearance of completely new religions. The most interesting place in the world from a religious perspective is not the Middle East, it's Silicon Valley. This is where the new religions of the 21st century are being created. They make all the old promises of traditional religions. They promise people immortality, they promise people happiness, they promise people justice and prosperity, but not with the help of some supernatural being above the clouds. Rather, it will be with the help of technology, of bioengineering, of artificial intelligence, that people will gain salvation, that people will even gain immortality. Just as we saw previously in the 19th and 20th century, the appearance of new ideologies, of new religions, like socialism, that promised people salvation through the technology of the Industrial Revolution. So now we will see new ideologies or religions that promise people salvation through the technologies of artificial intelligence and bioengineering. Well, nobody can predict the future with certainty, and we don't really know how the world would look like in 100 years. It is absolutely certain that artificial intelligence and bioengineering will completely change the world, but there is still a lot of room for social and political forces to influence the direction of technological change. Technology is never deterministic. You can use the same technology to create very different kinds of societies. In the 20th century, people used the technology of the Industrial Revolution, like electricity and trains and radio, to create communist dictatorships and fascist regimes and liberal democracies. The trains didn't tell us what to do with them. Similarly, in the 21st century, we will use the technology of machine learning and genetic engineering and so forth to different purposes. And there is still a lot of room for politics and culture and society to influence the direction this is taking us. Well, they increasingly dominate us already today. People are more and more controlled by their smartphones and by their computers. More and more of their social lives, their political opinions are shaped by the algorithms of Google and Facebook and so forth. If previously people search for information, now they basically Google it. And it's the first time in history when so many people go to just one place to get the information about so many different questions and topics. The Google search algorithm is now one of the most powerful forces in the world. Even, I know it as an author of a book, when I write a book and I write a description of the book to publicize it, so the number one question is what kind of words the Google search engine likes. Like I write something And the experts will tell me, yes, this is nice, but you should change this word to that word because the Google search engine likes that word more. It's more likely you'll get more hits if you say this than if you say that. So even in these small things, we are already giving more and more power to the algorithms. Many people have lost the ability to, I don't know, find their way around the city. They just follow the smartphone. If something happens, they are clueless. They have no idea how to find their own way because they depend on the algorithm. And we'll see it in more and more things. And similarly, you ask yourself, what should I study in university? And if previously you ask your parents and friends and you ask yourself, so increasingly people will just ask Facebook or Google or whatever algorithm knows them best, what should I study? Based on everything you know about me, about my abilities, about my limitations, about the job market and so forth, what should I study? And it may sound far-fetched or science fiction, but I think that within a very short time, 10, 20, 30 years, more and more of the most important decisions in people's lives will be taken by algorithms. I'm not necessarily saying that this is all bad. There are huge advantages to relying on the wisdom of these powerful systems. But there are of course also dangers inherent in it. I think that all good history was always about the present and the future and not just about the past. You don't study the past for the sake of the past. All the people who lived in the Middle Ages are long dead. They don't feel anything, they don't care about anything. So you study the Middle Ages in order to understand the present and the future better. And this is very common in other disciplines, like economists. They study past economic crisis in order to have a better understanding of the mechanism of an economic crisis. So you study the 1929 crash in order to have a better understanding of what to do with the present financial crisis. And history, as far as I understand it, history is not the study of the past. History is really the study of change, how things change. This is the subject matter of history. Whereas economists focus on a very narrow kind of change, just economic processes. Historians have a broad understanding of change. How do cultures change? How do civilizations change? How does the entire human race change? And you study these changes in order to better prepare yourself for the coming changes. Now, I'm not suggesting that historians can predict the future. Nobody can. The aim is not to forecast. The aim is to expand our horizon of possibilities. If you don't understand the past tends to control you. You find it difficult to see different scenarios. You grow up in a particular kind of society and you become convinced that this is the only way the world can function. By studying history, you actually realize, no, there are different possibilities. Like, I don't know, we live now, in the West at least, under a liberal democratic regime. And we tend to think that this is natural and inevitable, and that in the long run, all the world will become democratic and liberal and so forth. But the study of history can help us free our imagination from this limitation and realize that there is absolutely nothing certain about the future of liberal democracy, and that in 50 years liberal democracy may completely disappear and the world may be dominated by completely new kinds of regimes, such as digital dictatorships, which will not be a copy of, say, the Stalinist regime in the Soviet Union. They will be something completely different. Just as the Industrial Revolution enabled the creation of new kinds of authoritarian regimes, Stalin's Soviet Union or Hitler's Germany were very different from France of Louis XIV. It's a different kind of an authoritarian regime. So also the current technological revolutions may result in a completely new kind of an authoritarian regime. This is the kind of insights that history enables us to have. It's not a prediction, it's just an expansion of our horizon of possibilities.